Aloha and welcome to Matrix Body Mechanics Live on YouTube Live. We are actually not broadcasting live on People for People Radio today. Just had so much going on. My partner's about to be doing a retreat, and so I could only cut out a smaller window to do a little YouTube Live video. Couldn't do the full 2 hour broadcast today, but I will be back next week and have a couple amazing guests that are shuffling around, potentially coming into that spot for next week. So I look forward to that. Um, sorry, I just had to get the sound off on our broadcast. So yeah, I'm excited for that. A lot going on. It's another Monday into the unknown, and we are about to complete what was talked about as the 10 days of darkness, um, which it kind of very much has been. It hasn't been in complete down of the internet, but it has very much been um, a blackout in the media about what's been starting to come out. And it began with, well, it began with so many things long ago, but what's currently um, integrating into the public's awareness is this hard drive, actually, a couple hard drives from Hunter Biden that are going to be the beginning, as I said, almost appetizer to start the revealing process for humankind, but for the citizens of this country especially, to see a very long history of betrayal and deception. And there is a empowerment that can come with the truth. And part of that empowerment comes with just being very unattached and looking at this reality as what it is, a simulation, and we have our avatars. And so we're going to be exploring how do we empower ourselves as these avatars to face any information that comes up and comes out. We're uh, just over 2 weeks before the election. We have a very divided culture and people right now, and there is a fueling of that division, which seems to happen every election year and has for the, especially the last couple decades. But even the spawning of a two-party system from the first party, the Whig Party, was because Andrew Jackson lost an election and then spent 4 years prepping and building up a campaign to try to win the next election in 4 years, and did. And that was where the splitting and the creation of the Democratic uh, Republican Party from the Republican Party came. But when you look at the etymology of words, which you've explored a lot, and we start really deciphering our reality, our words, even the words that are used. If you look at the word government, govern to control, mente in Latin means mind. So it's mind control. If you look at the word democrat, uh, or democracy is crat or crassy is control. Demo means demon, demon control. So we don't we don't even have an awareness of the words that we reference, that we look at, that are integrated throughout our language. And then of course um, you have the culturization of our people that has also brought in a kind of a mutation of dialogue. But what's the root of the words that we use, you know, and the phonetic impact that they have. So today's shorter broadcast just gonna be offering up some interesting information and exploration. I've wanted to do a video on this for a while, and I was gonna make this the first part of the actual radio show, but I'm just shooting this to get it out there, to get the information out for those of you interested or have heard of human design. It is an amazing system, a what could be called a contemporary science that merges astrology and the I Ching and all the ancient astrological systems, along with genetics and the mechanics of light, photon, fractalization. Um, it's brilliant, and the most fascinating thing about it is it's an experiential system, meaning um, that they found a patterning between all of these ancient systems. For instance, in the I Ching, there are the same number of actual you have an entire diagram that parallels our genetic coding. So in the I Ching, you have all of these different symbols that represent the 6 stages of human evolution. And throughout these, in the I Ching, these hexagrams, there are 42 hexagrams, and there are 42 codons that parallel through the genetics and the DNA. So we found this I Ching, this ancient system, this ancient mapping of, really, when you get into the I Ching, it's the stages that we evolve from. And there are 6 lines that represent our human evolution from a survivalistic, animalistic state to the highest state of being enlightened, of being Christed. And so this imprintation of these lines is tracked through the neutrino stream from the sun and the stars. If you're not familiar, the neutrinos are subatomic particles that they've been able to track that carry information. That's why they move a little bit slower than light. And they are passing through us right now all the time at over 760 plus thousand miles per second. And it's like a data stream they've discovered of information. And this data light stream brings information from the cosmos that imprints into your DNA. And then it passes the conscious experience that you have accumulated as a consciousness filter. It passes that conscious experience of each one of us like a consciousness filter. That data passes through and carries on into the system. So it's like a live consciousness feed that's running through us. And each one of our wandering stars, or planets, as they're referred to by institutionalized science, is in a different position when you're born. And at 6 months in the womb, where they say there are 2 imprintations from this neutrino stream that are tracked in human design, and they have developed a mathematical algorithm and computer algorithm to track what would take manually 9 months to track in terms of the placement of all of the stars. And again, remember, this is including Vedic astrology, which is far more detailed than Western astrology, but it's including all of them in this algorithm. So within seconds, we can load your information into this program and look at your imprintation from the sun and the stars. And it's based around that there are 9 energy centers, not 7. So then in 1891, humanity came through our last mutation. And it's referred to in human design that we are Homo sapiens and transitus. We are a transitional form of a humanoid species. And that we will have another mutation in 2027, where the humans being born will be different. So 1891 was the last mutation, and basically there was a mutation in the frontal cortex of the brain, in our brain, as well as 2 of our energy centers split and became 9 instead of 7 energy centers, which all of the older spiritual scientists will tell you there are 9 energy centers, and there have been, but we are mutating and evolving, and 2 of our energy centers split or fractaled into other ones. And one of those is called the emotional center. And the emotional center, for humans in the past, it was more of a force that would come over us, whether it was angry or happy or sad. And now it's actually evolved into an energy center where we can build awareness around it. So around 50% of the population is defined or not defined. 52%, I believe, in human design of their analysis and statistics is humanity is defined emotionally, which means, and again, we'll get into a little bit more of this when I bring up an actual chart to look at. But of the 9 energy centers, each of those energy centers is either defined or open, like a port. Energy is either coming out of it, you're emanating it out of your consciousness, or it's open and you're vacuuming, almost taking energy, information, knowledge in. So all of our energy centers, and all of us can have a variance of that, except for one of the aura types, which I will touch base on when we get into it. Because all their centers are open. all of us have some variance of. So when we come into each other's energy fields, our auric fields, we color in the energy centers that are open, that for some people are colored in by the defined energy centers of other people, depending. If I have what's called the G center open, and someone comes around me who has a defined G center, that energy and information, and also conditioning and programming, homogenization, can come in, and that is a very complex statement. Meaning, if you grew up with a parent who had a defined energy center and yours was open, you would be growing up influenced by the energy from that center, by them, influenced until you got around other human beings and got out in the world, and you were around other G centers that had different dynamics to them. So all these energy centers are connected by what we call channels, and channels are made up of two gates. So you can imagine energy centers on the body, and imagine that they are connected. And as they're connected, one second, I'll bring it over to the video now. Let's just get that going. Here we go. Okay. All right. So just from this frame here, we can actually look at a very empty, generic rave chart or a human design chart. And you can see the 9 energy centers. Okay, we can list them out. We have the root center here. We have the sacral center here. So root center down here. If I can get to go, there it is. We have the sacral center or sex center. We have the spleen over here. And then we have that emotional center I was talking about, one of the newer energy centers right here. Then we have the ego right here. We have the G center right in the center, like the town square. We have the throat center, the ajna, and what's referred to as the head, or in spiritual, historical sciences, the crown. But the crown and ajna are separate. So, and you can see most of these line up very similar to a lot of the energy center charts. Little differences, obviously, you can see the spleen and the emotional center, they're marked off to the side. So in this chart, all of us have some variance of these energy centers defined or open. And these little numbers that you can't really see because they're distorted, these numbers are called gates. And so in order for you to have a channel connecting this energy center to here, first of all, they'd have to be defined. And then this gate and this gate would have to be defined, which would create this energy center here. Okay. So, I'm sorry, this channel connecting the two. Now you can have a hanging gate, meaning one of these gates is defined, but let's say this energy center here is open, and in it being open, there's no definition to this gate. So for an example, someone could come into your auric field who has this energy center defined and that gate defined, and together in your electromagnetics, you will create a channel together that are connecting your G center to your throat, which will result in a feeling of a more fulfilling, what we would call chemistry or connection between each other. So everything we refer to as connection, as chemistry, is really electromagnetics playing out between all of these energy centers right here. So with these energy centers is an auric field, an aura that is created. And this is an image of somebody, they have a camera that can take a picture of your auric field. So these energy centers, and you can see in that they create an auric field that has a left and a right side, a yin and a yang, as well as 4 polarities. And this auric field is very big, actually. It's quite broad, but it is an electromagnetic field just like the earth has, and each one of us has one. And it doesn't matter who you are, you have an auric field. But everyone's auric fields are not the same. In fact, there is a variance in human design they've been able to track And that variance has created 4 different archetypes. And in those archetypes, they have very different auric structure. And you can see even in this example, these 2 auric fields look very different. This one on the right, the blue one, is actually generating out. And that generating out has a different waveform, has a different structure and frequency than this auric field. And there are 4 basic archetypal auric fields that one can have in human design. Also, um, in human design, also, um, these auric fields, when they come in contact with each other, they influence and affect each other. And that influence and affecting is because that auric field is intermingling with another auric field. And naturally, this is where those electromagnetics play out between the centers. And sadly, because we don't have awareness of the mechanics of these electromagnetics, we allow these electromagnetics unconsciously to influence us, to homogenize us, to affect us in ways that we don't understand completely or consciously, because we don't understand a depth of our energetic effects and influence on each other. Within 4 hours of being in somebody's auric field, within 4 hours of being out of their field, that their auric field kind of fades out. And so I'll give you just a very basic example. You could come into somebody's field that is the G center is about identity. It's about identity and direction. You could become very influenced by the individual if you're open, that you're coming into the field of, and they might just be like on the kick of I love purple. Oh my gosh, I'm just so feeling purple today. And all of a sudden you feel like, God, I love purple too. It's so amazing. And you decide to go to the store after hanging out with them and you buy a bunch of purple stuff. And 5-6 hours later, you get home and you're kind of like, what? Oh, gosh, I really don't want all this purple stuff. Why did I? So we tend to influence each other in ways that aren't just psychological, they're psychophysical, they're energetic, they're the full spectrum. And we are so material and materialized that we really only gauge and experience things to that degree. Now, to understand the full length of our auric field, you could stick your arms out basically, and then imagine a second arm length out from that. That is about the full 360-degree radius of your auric field. And as that auric field is emanating, it doesn't really, it's not prejudiced to walls, to structures. So if you're sharing an apartment with somebody, and they're really angry and you have an open emotional center and they're emotional and they're having a wave of anger, that you could feel overcome with anger and not know why. And because you don't understand how auras work, you don't understand. So you might identify with that anger and find yourself being very angry and frustrated. Literally, the auric fields of individuals are affecting each other through walls. So this is very important for people who live in apartment buildings, where they're sharing more than they realize. It's not just physical space. Aurically, you're influencing each other. In fact, I imagine there's a certain dynamic to everybody acclimating to even living around each other, because they're integrating an auric energetic aspect that they're not conscious of. So they're just going off of psychological aspects. And who knows how gosh, I just don't like that person. I don't know why, I just don't like my neighbor. Well, he could be very angry and hide it and be in his apartment a lot, just really frustrated. And you're feeling that, and it's just like, I don't know what it is. So this is a way to have a deeper, clearer understanding of human connection. And the neat thing is with human design is it is experientially based, meaning we don't know. This is what your design says. So, feel it out, experiment, and you tell us. We don't really know. It's that, and that's the beautiful thing about human design is over time, you really do, through the experience of testing and rebelling even against your imprint from the sun and the stars? Will you see how it doesn't work, and then will you try to go along with what's called your strategy and authority, which we're about to get into, and experiment with? And strategy and authority is really just how your aura, because each of these 4 archetypal auras navigate differently through our matrix, our holographic simulation moving through time space that we are in. And so if you don't know how your unique, first of all, if you don't know what your unique aura type and auric structure and auric emanation is, how could you even begin to authentically navigate through life? Truly, it's a game changer to truly understand your aura type, your emanating field structure. And we like to think that an aura comes off of the physical form, but this isn't true. The aura is a self-emanating life force that actually controls and directs the physical form. So we focus on our physical bodies, our physiques, so much, yet the actual aura that is directing and guiding and controlling the construct of the form, the physical form, we how could we truly guide the form if we don't understand the aura type? So because auras are constantly influencing, we're constantly influencing each other. When you sleep, it is the one time that you can reset your aura, which is why in human design it is just pivotal in terms of guidance towards authenticity and awareness to sleep in your own auric field. And I know a lot of human design couples that are really serious about this, and they have their love making and time and intimacy with each other, but they go off and sleep in separate bedrooms because you're influencing each other's aura during your sleep cycle. And then remember, you wake up, and within a very short time you're all of a sudden spending an entire day interfacing with all types of auras and getting influenced all day long, getting homogenized, getting constantly, but also experiencing a beautiful duality, a beautiful variety, a spectrum of frequencies and energy and chemistry and information that makes you feel more whole. Again, this is a beautiful way to look at, in partnership and relationships, we make each other feel more whole. Well, literally, that is a bioenergetic electromagnetic process of us filling in these different energy centers for each other. So sleeping in your own space is amazing. And again, experiment. That's the beautiful thing. You should only do what produces results for you. So give it a try. Sleep on your own. If you have a partner, sleep in your own auric field, see how you feel with each other. Now, again, this becomes tough when you have a family and little kids, and we have our youngest ones definitely always sleeping in bed. But my partner and I even have for great periods of time slept in separate rooms, and I usually end up sleeping on the quantum tech I have in our treatment facility because it puts the body in a theta wave state, and normally that takes 3 hours when you're sleeping, but when you lay on this technology, it puts you into that state in minutes, which means if I slept 3 hours on this tech, it's the equivalent of 6 hours worth of deep sleep because it puts me in theta right away. So my time sleeping is in theta, which normally the body has to go through a period to get to that depth. And part of that is because our nervous systems are all glitchy and on the fritz because we're so full, because we don't understand the breakdown of space and creation of space back in our body, and we fill up, we pull ourselves together. And that's where our ego exists, is in the compression of our consciousness into our body as we've grown up and collected stress and trauma. And again, I had an amazing interview with Christopher Lee Maurer. I've been editing this. It's over a 2-hour, it's like a feature-length film I'm editing and putting graphics into. And then I'm going to cut it up into shorter segments for everybody. And I will do a full-length one, but I'm going to cut it up into smaller segments to hopefully reach people who don't want to watch a 2-hour broadcast. And again, this is part of, and I've talked about, it's okay to be accountable for things that we have become a fairly retarded populace around our attention spans and our focus. And it's hard to see that when you're in it. And it's a gradual process to our neurokinetics being so bombarded with dopamine and serotonin from technology that it actually really, talk about fritz and us not being able to relax. It is deeply affecting our nervous systems and our children. My son yesterday, we had a big challenge. His whole body seized up, and I'm a neuromuscular specialist. I help people all the time, but it was so inflamed. We couldn't do anything about it. We had to actually get, just basically give him some muscle relaxers for it to chill and start to settle. And now we're going to start treating his shoulders. They're all seized up. He's 10. He's not overly physically crazy active, but he has had his own amounts of bombardment of stress, and he's been very uh, resourceful in um, getting on technology despite our, trying to protect him from it. And I see the effects on his nervous system, and just it's humbling, it's amazing and sad. And I look forward to us doing some healing on him in the next few days. He's really gotten a wake-up call about how much he's accumulated stuff, even as a 10-year-old, that's affecting him. So the sleeping in your own aura is pivotal, is a pivotal thing to reset you. Experiment with it, see what you feel. Again, the results will show you, but it's a great reset. And so as we look at this auric field, that each one of us, so many different people, each one of us have one of these fields. Here are the 4 primary archetypes for these aura types. We have a projector, we have a reflector, we have a manifester, and a generator. Okay, so we're going to go first, we'll go into the manifester. The manifester has a repelling aura, it pushes out. And in it pushing out, it's a closed auric system, so it pushes away. Um, it's designed to create an impact. Upon interacting with somebody, it is closed, so it's pushing out like this. It's a closed system. It's not bringing in, because that's an open system drawing in. It's going out. It's designed to create an impact. 8% of the population um, is around 8% of the population are manifestors. My daughter's a manifester. They are what most of us who are generators wish that we were, because we think we do, because they are designed to have impacts. They're designed to go into a room and say, oh my gosh, you guys, you need to come look at this. And, someone else could do that who's a generator, who doesn't have that type of an aura, and people might not respond. But if a manifestor did that, it is designed to create an impact. They have the ability not to change this simulation, this holograph that's moving through time space, but they can create an impact on it in a different way. The rest of us are at the whim of how the system plays out and flowing with it, learning to flow with it. The manifestors can almost, if anyone can move the current just a little bit, but they're designed to move the current with a higher divinity behind them, not for their own self-interests, which becomes self-destructive for you as a manifestor if you are coming from a place of not self and you're trying to create this impact on somebody for your own agendas and not for the greater good, which is what the manifestor is designed to do. Each one of these aura types has a purpose to them that is vital. They play a magical role in society and in our collective, with each other interacting. You can see that the throat and the ego, all manifestors have the throat defined, and some have the ego center, the heart center defined. But the rest of the centers, again, oh yeah, and also they would never have the sacral, because that brings us to the next aura type, which is the generator. And the generator has the sacral center defined. The generator is the only one with the sex center defined, the sacral center. We are the sexual beings of the planet, and around 72% ish, like 70% of humanity are generators. We are in harmony with the earth generating. We are what powers this crystalline holograph. 70% of the population is powering our system. We are, as I said, the sexual beings of the planet. We are also known as the energizer bunnies. Most of us have this higher generating energy. The other 3 aura types do not have the sacral center defined. And in not having the sacral center defined, they get powered by us. So imagine if you're a generator and you come in contact with another energy field, that sacral center is going to power anyone who's non-sacral. Okay. Now there is different types of generators. There's an emotional generator and a pure generator and a splenic generator. So you get the spleen or the emotional center. These are awarenesses. They actually make a variance of generators. I actually have all three awarenesses. I have sacral awareness, I have the splenic, and I have emotional awareness, and also ajna awareness is actually the other awareness center. But in terms of a strategy, it affects the strategy. So let me just bring it back a second to the generator. Here we go. So also, and you can see it as it's expanding out here, the generator has an expanding aura, and that aura, you can see how it expands out. We are designed to, our auras to draw in our experiences. Okay, our interaction is to draw people in with this auric generating field, and as we draw them in to our field, our strategy is to respond. So for the manifester's repelling aura that is, like I said, making an impact, that repelling aura, their strategy is to inform people. Now that sounds weird, probably, but if you're a manifester and you want to go do something, even go get some milk from the store, um, you have to inform people. And it's a weird thing. If you don't, people will have a process around it where me as generator could not inform somebody, and it's no big deal. And people don't even understand why. It's because you're not working with your auric field. If your aura repels out and its interaction is closed and repelling, informing people before you create that impact is going to create more flow, so to speak. Um, and that's really what bringing awareness to these aura types is all about, is more grace and flow. Because if you learn your aura type and how it navigates, you can work within it. So their authority is the throat center, that town square I was talking about. And that town square really is these are motors. Okay, a lot of these energy centers are motors. The sacral center is a motor. Okay, the root is a motor. All right. These centers, all, you can see the lower motors all conjoin at the throat, which is like the town square, to the higher energy centers. So when this is defined, the throat, if you think about it phonetically, that was when we had a huge evolution as a species, is when our actual voice box and phonetic sound came about. And so that was a huge evolution for us as a species, when we could start formulating again. In the beginning, there was the word of God. So words and sound phonetically are very powerful and important. So manifestors have this defined throat, which is that motor for speaking out into reality. It's part of the impact aspect of them. And you can see, as we said, with the generators, that they have that sacral center as opposed to this throat center defined, or the heart or the ego defined. You can see that difference, and that these are really the two designs, that those are the imperative centers, and you can again see that sacral center. And through this, the generator is generating out a field that draws in. And so their strategy, their sacral center, which is right here, as we talked about, is actually not just the sex center. It is that guttural, It's very primal and experiential to understand what it is to be a generator. It's that or ugh. And my son, who's a generator, my first generator child out of an only generator out of four, he says my tummy doesn't feel like this, or my tummy says this, and this is his pure developing individualization, already interpreting his sacral self without realizing it, saying, this is what my guttural intelligence is saying. No, it's not that. All of us have a guttural intelligence on a physiological level, but this is tied to consciousness, aura awareness, and also how energy generates in this auric field and directs, as I said, and controls the physical form. So that or ugh, that is the authority of the generator that we are supposed to make our decisions from. And that authority is our directing pure force, not our intellect, not our mind. It's like a navigation system in your car, as opposed to the driver who thinks they're driving, but they're following the navigation. But if they stop following navigation, just try to figure it out, they end up getting lost. So this is what the mind does all the time, because we haven't been taught of this deeper intelligence. And it is the strongest in that guttural intelligence with a generator. Now, this generator rave chart here you're looking at, there's an open emotional center and spleen center, which I've talked about. This is a pure generator. They're known to have the purest from God, from source itself, because they're super aligned with that guttural intelligence if they can learn to tune into it. If you have a splenic center, that is also that awareness center. That splenic awareness is going to sit layered to that sacral awareness, and that splenic awareness is like that. It's fear or love, and it's like a transistor radio. It could be fear 1 second, love the next. It's when the hair stands up in the arms, on your arms, the hair stands up. It's when your body relaxes and feels that love. It is the splenic generators, or splenic, any or type that is splenic, besides the reflectors, which we're going to get to, are completely all centers open, and they are less than 2%. But any splenic aura type, any splenic design, we are the survivors. We are the ones that will go, we need to run right now. And the open splenic people are the ones that will be kind of playing with the butterfly while the tsunami is, about to sweep in, just completely oblivious to it, because that splenic awareness is not there for them. They also have more health challenges, where splenic people, we are survivors. Our immune systems are very strong. And again, my son's a good example of this, because what happens is the spleen also is saying, I got this. I don't need your homeopathic remedies. I don't need all this stuff. I got this. But eventually, sometimes the spleen gets overconfident and says, I got this, and something's creeping up and takes the system down. And then when the spleen's like, I don't got this, then splenic people can go down really hard sometimes. So it's again, to keep it all in balance, harmony, and check. So as the generator powers the system, that their interaction is the most charging. It is the most massive and enveloping of the aura types. And ironically, as I said, about 70% of the population are generators. They are the primary auric field, which means the other three, including the manifestor we've gone through, are the minority. And that minority has its own experience with generators. In fact, when we talk about aura center influence, a projector like this could be influenced from their sacral center, and that sacral center, they could think that they have tons of energy and think that they're a generator, because nobody's explained aura types. So you got projectors working hard and burning out over their lives because they're trying to keep up with the generators, and they think they are, and no one's really explained to them, you are different. Who are you? Well, you are a focused auric field. If you're a projector, your aura goes in like a beam like this, like a projected focused beam. And as that, you can focus and actually see people in a way that they sometimes can't even see themselves. And you can project your focus onto an individual and see very deeply. Also, this is challenging because it is an absorbing aspect to the auric field, and it's hard to focus on more than one person, where the generator is emanating out and can receive multiple people. The projector is laser focused. A lot of times they also, again, can get kind of tunnel vision, because they can focus out on a specific scenario or situation, and if it doesn't work out that way, they can freak out over it. Now, you can have an ego projector right here, or you can have an emotional projector, which means they can also project emotion. And that projection can, especially, and I want to say this with all the aura types, you have something called not self or authentic self. And the authentic self is that true, authentic you, operating completely within your design mechanics and your aura type. None of us are ever doing that, because no one explained this stuff to us, aura types, energetic mechanics. And so we're deeply conditioned and influenced and homogenized by each other. And in that, we end up not living authentically, we get conditioned with all types of what we call not self-conditioning, which is anything outside of the authentic self. And that includes all the cultural BS, the programming, the deep government, social engineered psychopathy programs, multiple that have been put in place that have created intergenerational distortion and delusion, that has been passed down to the current generations that are adults today. My mother was first generation feminist, deeply indoctrinated into the feminist movement, which was not about empowering women. It was about getting double the taxpayers, being able to tax double the populace. And it was also about destroying the family in America, um, because it was about distorting the polarity between masculine and feminine, which is all intelligently done by design. And the more research you do and understand this, it's no longer a theory, folks. It's just a conspiracy that's been playing out, and our ignorance has allowed for that distortion. And also our ignorance can be a pure thing, because part of that ignorance is we would never believe that something would be so evil or not have our best interests at heart that is supposed to be protecting us. I completely understand. So with the projector, they don't have this defined energy source of the sacral center, and they don't have that energy that just goes forever, like the generator, the Energizer Bunny. And so, in that regard, they have to charge up. They have to charge up, and when I say they have to charge up, they have to go to sleep before they're tired. So, if you're a projector and you feel tired and you haven't gone to sleep yet, fail. You will wake up more drained and exhausted than you went to sleep. Also, interesting thing about projectors actually charge up off of plants. Just by touching plants, they can actually absorb and get a little charge from them, which I thought was really fascinating because my two projector children are very drawn to doing such things. In fact, you start seeing, the more you learn designs and aura types of people that you know and you experience, you will start experiencing these energetic mechanics. And I think that's one of the more fascinating things about design, human design. So now we have, let's see, let me shut this. There we go. Okay, so now we have the reflector, and the reflector is the sampling aura, so to speak. It's just open and getting to sample and experience and also reflect back everything, everything around it. It is sampling, reflecting, um, and it's very resistant. Like I said, it's reflecting. It's tied to the moon. Um, and by that, in terms of strategy and authority, there is no authority because it's open. Uh, and because it's open and there's no authority, um, their strategy is to wait a full lunar cycle, since they are like the moon, reflecting light. They are tied to the moon and a lunar cycle for big decisions for navigating your life. Now, like I said, you can't, that's not realistic to have to wait a lunar cycle for day-to-day decisions, but for the larger navigational decisions of your life, taking a lunar cycle. I've actually met 4 projectors in my life, which is amazing if they're less than 2% of the population, which they are. They also can get really screwed up because they don't know that they're different. They don't know that they're being raised, conditioned, and homogenized more than anyone else because they're so open to just soak it up. They are basically, their system is just being bombarded with conditioning and influence from other people's designs and energy centers. So when we look at them, the manifestor, the generator, the projector, and the reflector, and we see these 4 archetypes and their different structures, their variety, their uniqueness, you can see how it really would make a difference if you're one of these 4 on how you navigate through reality, because each one of these is going to interface with both the physical and energetic, because remember, the energetic directs the form. And so by being in harmony and alliance with that harmony and alliance will guide a more authentic, graceful, and fluent journey through life. Each one of these beautiful aura structures is unique in its own, and that's one of the beautiful things about learning aura type and design is it breaks our natural homogenization to expect everyone to interact and react to situations or experiences the way we do. When we learn our design, a lot of times we may be very off from our own designs. We may be so far-fetched, so far away from our authentic self. And as we start experimenting and exploring, we all of a sudden start seeing more results, success, grace, and flow. And that naturally, it's the neatest thing how it gets you to start acknowledging and breaking what you do, which is homogenization of each other. We are all homogenizing each other all the time. And when I say that, I mean we are, all of us are homogenizing ourselves, our experiences to feel more comfortable. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is it's like we can't just have our own experience. We want to confirm and influence other people with it. I just saw the most amazing movie ever made, you guys. Really? Is it the most amazing movie? No, it's not. But you want us to think it is as well and agree with you on it. So we do this. Oh, I just had the most amazing vegan ice cream. Oh my gosh, it's the best of all the flavors. It's the best one. So we throw things around like that. Obviously, this is probably hitting more of an adolescent chord for you of, oh, you used to do that stuff when we were kids, but we actually still do it as adults too. We don't realize it because we've been homogenized. We naturally homogenize each other, and that homogenization doesn't allow for the natural variety that makes everything so interesting. So that was the basic breakdown of human design aura types and strategy and authority. Uh, and just as a reflective review, we have the generator, the manifestor, the reflector, the projector, and each aura type has a different structure in how it emanates the form, and thus has a different authority and strategy, which is a voice, a guidance to listen to, and then how to navigate that guidance through the system, right? So we have the generator first and foremost, which is emanating out and drawing in. It's that open, absorbing field that's, and we are designed literally to wait for our aura to bring people in, and we respond to what's brought in by our aura. And you can test this by going to a party, don't talk to anybody, and just let your aura do the work, and it's amazing to watch. Now we're conditioned to think we need to make things happen. I need to go talk to this person, I need to initiate this handshake, or I want to talk, I want to show them this healing work I do. I can tell you from experience, it's been amazing. Even if the person was interested, if I tried to initiate without letting my aura do the work and responding, the person would be less open. Even if they were interested, something will feel off for them. So that would then make me frustrated. So that frustration is the sign I'm not working within my design mechanics. So for the manifester, repelling aura, closed, pushing off, they're designed to make an impact. Their strategy from an aura like this, which naturally can feel intrusive to people. It's crazy. My daughter, I love her so much, but she'll have this way where she'll come in and she'll hug me or try to initiate contact with me, but it's in this very penetrating way. And it triggers me, and I don't want it to trigger me, but it's because her aura is penetrating in a way where she's not doing the strategy, which is to inform, which is to even say, hey, dad, first before she touches. And so she's only 13. She's working out the mechanics of that. This all becomes a natural refinement. The ironic thing is you're doing this for your aura type, whether you're aware of it or not, which is why when I talk to older people, a lot of them be like, oh yeah, I used to totally not work with this, and then I learned to do what it says my aura does, because there's a beauty to naturally coming to that. But why not get the conscious information, and that conscious information can then be applied, and the process of not self experience, which is going to be less graceful and less fluent, doesn't have to be the larger progressive window towards getting it, which is the whole point. So when we have that repelling aura, and they need to, their strategy then is to inform, right? Okay. And that strategy to inform is from that authority, that throat defined authority that they have, which is the motor that can speak it out. So, and again, you can have a splenic manifestor. You can have an emotional manifestor, which means, let's touch base on emotion. The emotional center is was a force. Like I said, humanity, people would just be overrun with anger, happiness. And then 1891, last mutation, humanity actually developed an awareness. And your awareness center around the emotional center is either you're defined and you have what's called a wave, and it has highs and lows, or you have an open emotional center, which means you are magnifying, but experiencing, but magnifying the waves of the emotional people you're around. So you either have a wave that works you and moves through you, or you don't have a wave, which means you don't get overwhelmed with waves of anger or sadness, but you are feeling the waves of others, which is how it allows you to build awareness and feel emotion. And you also can magnify it. So knowing if I'm open emotional, I don't have waves. And if I am overrun with anger and I live in an apartment building, maybe I share a wall with somebody who's angry. And so I don't get overwhelmed with anger because I don't have that center open emotionally or defined to have a wave. So you can break that rather than not understanding how this emotional center works now for awareness, and then just giving into that because you're acknowledging I'm angry, so that must mean something. And again, influence is powerful because there are also technologies that can manipulate and influence you to feel angry or happy or sad or all these different things. So that would those technologies would influence open emotional people more than emotional wave people because we have a wave. It can't really be manipulated. But for those of us that are emotional, like myself, that wave has highs and lows. And I should not be making any decisions if I'm in a wave, a high or a low. In fact, what I found is the art is there's a 0 point middle ground in between the wave that is a calm that I can make clear decisions from my sacral because remember I'm a generator, so I still have that sacral or So, but through human design's teachings, which again, I was blessed to be raised, as everyone knows, I was blessed to be kind of rogue trained by some very amazing human design analysts, and some of the head teachers under Rob before he passed, who went rogue and left the system because there was a lot of politics and stuff with it. Although, again, I'm still promoting. Check out jovianarchive.com. That's human design's website. You can check out your other. You can check out your chart individually there. There's also some cool apps now. There used to be only apps for analysts. Now there's some public apps, and they are actually really beautifully done. So you can really learn and get all the digital. There's archives of the books that you can check out on human design. Some really great beginning books. But some of the apps, they have almost everything in there. I wish, if I wasn't blessed to learn the way I did, which is I was actually doing neuromuscular therapy on an analyst who he would go through my chart while I would be treating him for like 3 hours. So I got to learn the mechanics of my personalized chart, and then the dynamics naturally came for the structure of human design. And then of course, learning my family, my children's charts, it just became, the accuracy is just unbelievable. And we've talked about before, me and colleagues of mine, that every parent should know the human design of their children. It would change the game for parenting your children, and it has for me, huge. And again, it's all testable. You'll be so surprised how much the living experience of the form reflects the design once you learn the mechanics around it. So that emotional center is actually something that's supposed to be checked in on over time. So major decisions, you're supposed to check in on this wave of yeses and nos, right? And so you might get 6 yeses over a month checking in on, is this thing right for me? And if you get 6 yeses and 3 nos, 99% that's going to be, really divinely, authentically aligned for what's best for you. But for those of us emotional people, we are conditioned to make decisions all the time. And so we like to say yes to things all the time. And that is it's a big challenge because it ends up complicating things. Because even, let's say somebody last minute, you want to go see a movie, for the emotional person, they actually need to emotionally process going to see the movie. It's kind of funny. So it's hard for them to, even if they say yes, to fully feel integrated in the experience. So one of the best things that a emotional person, whatever design you have, is to say, check in with me later. Oh, that sounds awesome. Check in with me later. So if you're emotional, if you've learned your design, and again, also emotional wave people, we move through things. If it's the death of a loved one, if it's a relationship, we move through the wave. Open emotional people can actually really have a very elongated process emotionally, because they're feeling the waves of other people. They're not fully able to ever be in their aura, so they can't really just process on their own, because they're always being influenced, and it makes it more challenging. So then we have the projector, which is like a tractor beam outward, focused out, focusing on you. They can direct that at one individual at a time. They get overwhelmed with too many energies because they have to focus in. And they also can make you feel like the center of the world. They also are amazing at systems. They see things and they see this orchestration. And they also, it's said that projectors are twice their cognitive age. And I can confirm that with my son, who's 10. He's had the cognitive maturity of a 20-year-old at this time. He understands adult dynamics, and the most interesting way, he's always fascinating us with some of the reflections he'll say. And I also see kind of a harsh side to the projector being hit with that, because they end up, even as a child, seeing more adult spectrum things. And I feel like it can pull them out of the innocence of being a child, because their cognition goes more adult so quickly. Then we, of course, have the reflector. Oh, by the way, projector. Remember, now projector, they can only focus on one thing at a time. And their authority or their strategy is to wait to be invited to something. Okay. And so, and when I say that their authority I'm sorry, their strategy is to wait to be invited to something, it's because that's how their auric field works. They need to be invited. Otherwise, they only have so much energy. They're not like the generator. So if they put energy into something and it's not recognized, they get very bitter. If you're bitter as a projector, that's the telltale that you didn't play off the mechanics of, oh, you're interested in me contributing, because projectors can contribute so much, but if they're not recognized, which ends up happening, then they're bitter. And that bitterness is the tell that, nope, you didn't work within your design strategy, which is to wait to be invited. And the great thing is you can initiate, oh, you're interested in me doing it. Are you inviting me to be a part of this? And I found you can explain things like this. You can literally be like, I actually found that you don't have to explain human design. You can say, I actually need to be invited to things. It works better for me in this, and it helps me to feel recognized. And there's nothing anyone could argue, not knowing human design or not. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, that's what works for you. This is, again, learning to break the homogenization and allow each one of us to be individualized, and support each other to be individualized, which is something beautiful that comes from learning your individual design. So then we have the reflectors. Their authority is lunar cycle, the moon. They actually are guided to make decisions through the moon. So that strategy would be to wait a lunar cycle on major decisions, as I said before. So they would say, oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I'll need probably a month to mull it over. That's a great way as a reflector to not engage to commit to something without truly getting the internal guidance that comes from honoring your design mechanics. Good. So brief review. Also flip back if you want to and check those design visuals if you need to see what they look like. They are amazing. And again, a blessing of, I got to have a lot of material from shared with me from colleagues from the human design community. And I am not an analyst myself, and I'm just giving you intros to kind of have an understanding, with the intention to look deeper on something like this, and check out Jovian Archive and check out their programs. And you can fully, it's a very intricate process to learn to do this. I actually don't think I probably could have done it without the way that it was almost apprenticeship for me, integrated with people in a more informal construct for me to be able to process. And then, of course, obviously, learning your design is a very powerful way to learn about it. And there's some amazing analysts out there that you can go check out to get human design readings. And yeah, there really is. There's a profound community, and the human design community is very fascinating, because there really is. There's all kinds of entrapments, like with spirituality, to get too defined in your design. And that's also the big thing is, overall, the goal is to transcend all of the centers that are uniquely different for each one of us, and be able to become lit up in all these energy centers, and be able to embody the spectrum of the multitude of imprintation of consciousness. But in order for you to transcend gifts and challenges in your imprint from the sun and the stars, you have to learn it first. And so half the journey is just the first 7 years of reprogramming, because they say cells take 7 years to replace themselves. Well, actually, physiologically, the body can replace itself every 11 months. So the whole process can get speeded up a lot more if you're doing things replacing the cells faster, because that means that your knowledge and wisdom of human design is in your cells, and the cells are replacing faster out than 7 years. And this is something powerful that no one in human design even talks about a lot of this, because they're very set to 7 years for the cells to replace themselves. Well, no, in so much ancient teachings, actually it's only 11 months if you're operating the body properly. My hair, skin, and nails grow at an accelerated rate, and have for the 20 plus years I've been doing these spiritual sciences, because they produce results, which is why I do them, and why I'm working really hard to show everybody and integrate you into these practices, because they are intuitive and they are pretty baseline, very, very simple. They're true, and they're pure, they're simple, they're intuitive, and it's kind of like you're remembering. You're not really learning anything new in that regard. So with that, I'm actually going to incorporate from one of my Kundalini teacher training manuals. I'm going to implement this Kirtan Kriya Sata Nama. Okay, and I'm going to push this back a little bit. Give myself a little space. So with this. We're going to be exploring yoga pressure points and meridians through the fingers. I've told you before, these are your 4 polarities, and each 4 polarity, there's a form of Chinese testing where we do 4 polarities, and you can test where somebody pulls your fingers apart while you're touching something, whether it be a supplement or whatever. You can hold it, and they can test the polarities. And sometimes it'll test 2 really strong and the other 2 weak. But you can test food on where the polarity's at with things, and the best things will have all 4 polarities really strong. So there's an amazing science, Chinese method that's so accurate. They've tracked tumors to like a 99% rate of accuracy by doing this third-party testing where they test off 4 polarities. Nonetheless, so we're going to be exploring the various fingers, the different mudras that we're going to be exploring. Meditation employs elementary sounds, and Satnam, Satanama, the power of Satanama is likened to the energy of an atom. And Sat Nam means true identity. It's one of the reasons we say Sat Nam is I'm bowing to your true identity, which isn't this avatar, physical form. It is actually that higher energetic, the aura, and its higher super conscious connection that we just explored, the concept of these auras. So when we're saying that, we're acknowledging what isn't seen. We're acknowledging so much more than this physical body, actually something that goes out 2 arm lengths out from us, right? Twice our arm lengths out. So Sa, the universe or totality. Ta, life creation. Na, death and dissolution. Ma, rebirth, regeneration. So Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. It is the full cycle and synthesis of the cycles and rhythms of creation and death, dissolution, and the rebirth, the regeneration, the rise. And we are going through and about to complete a 6,000 year first quarter of the next cosmic day, the 5th cosmic day. We are in, it's 24,000 years for a cosmic day, 24 hours for a solar day. We're about to complete what's called the cardinal shift, the first 6,000 year cycle. And there is a lot that comes with the completion of that cycle. It is a Sata Nama. It is the universe totality, life creation, death, dissolution, and a rebirth into the next quarter. Okay, and it can have a magnitude of earth changes and pole shifts, but a conscious awakening to take place. So these ancient sciences were given as a way for us to ground and prepare through a birthing transformation process. That we're on the organism that's going through the process, whatever you want to refer to the earth as. We are the organisms on it, and it's going through the process whether we're going with it or not. So these were designed to align, like we said, the aura is emanating It is generating like the earth is generating, and it is attuned to the earth. And so our auras can be affected to where we're not attuned to the earth. And so this is a really good way to attune to the earth. So yoga stimulates pressure points and meridians in such the same way as acupressure does. And so we do it accompanied with sound. Okay. So in this meditation, you'll be doing several things at one time, just so you know. Okay. The first one, your thumbs will sequentially be pressed to each finger as we go through the various sounds. Okay. So we have the thumb and the index finger, and index is for wisdom. Okay. And then from there, that's going to be our sa. Okay. From there, we have the middle finger. Middle fingers for patience. And that's going to be our next one, which is ta. Na is going to be here, ring finger. This is for energy. This is also the primary nerve meridian line actually out, and it's the one for the heart as well in reflexology and acupressure. So that's our life energy force one. That's the na, okay? And then ma is going to be the pinky, all right? And this is for communication. It's the pinky. So when we do these, it goes sa, ta, na, ma, okay? Sa, ta, na, ma. Okay. So there are three voices when we do this. It's an 18-minute exercise. So we do the first one, we start with we have our speaking out loud voice, okay? Our human voice. Sa, ta, na, ma. Okay. We have our whisper voice, which is the voice that we would share with our lover. It's our whispering, the voice of the lover, which would be sa, ta, na, ma. I'm trying to pull this out a little bit. Sa, ta, na, ma. And then we have our silent, our inner voice, our internal voice, which is, again, it's inside, it's internal, it's in our sphere. It's also in our mind and our head, because we tend to think inner dialogue like this. So now we're introducing sacred sounds that we're actually making our brain acknowledge internally in that same room, in that same feed of commercial broadcasting and the dialogue going through the brain. We're introducing sacred sounds and also a new focus for the brain while we're doing this exercise, which is getting our brain to focus on something else, to focus on God, to focus on source. So beginners wise, we would chant in a loud voice for 3 minutes out in our out loud voice. Okay. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Now you can speak it or you can do elongated. Sa, ta, na, ma. Now you can elongate those and really go deep into them, or you can actually do this all in one elongated. So I'm giving you variances to explore with. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Good. And so then we would do 3 minutes in any variance that you feel aligned to for this. And then then you do 3 minutes in your voice of the lover. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, sa, ta, na, ma. 3 minutes. And then we do silent. And then from there, you're going to then do the whole thing reflected in reverse. Another 3 minutes silent. Then 3 minutes in the voice of the lover. Sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. Then our out loud voice, our chanting, and any variance from there. Sa, ta na ma sa ta na ma sa ta na ma sa ta na ma, or you could do really elongated sa ta na ma. So we're gonna go again. We're taking it loud, our human voice, voice of the lover, silent, 3 minutes each, then 3 minutes silent, voice of the lover, finishing loud. Feel the sound of each syllable. Feel it as it's vibrating from the heart and the chest. Feel it going up to the crown center and going out through the third eye in like an L shape. This energy flow pattern is called the golden cord. So it's coming up, it's coming out, and it actually arcs around. Okay. Now the microcosmic orbit is coming up, arcs around. We're circulating energy. This is also the connection between the pineal and the pituitary. We've talked about these two glands. These are the two primary glands that release the sacred secretions that combine to make this sacred colostrum that regenerates our cells, our blood vessels, the viscosity of our tissue, of all of our blood vessels, actually, in our veins, and our spine regenerates everything. So we want to learn to engage these glands. We want to learn to stimulate these glands. So you can also evolve and work up from here. You could start with 3 minutes. You could even start with 1 minute for each if you wanted to, and then you'd make it a 6 minute exercise. Or you can go to three. That's 18. You could also go to 5 minutes, which ends up being about a 31-minute practice. In fact, what's really beautiful is you're going to start getting into a zone. You're going to get into a flow with it, with a zone, with the flow of the words, with the sounds, and you'll start losing yourself in that, and you'll start feeling the harmonic and the resonance, how it's expanding, and you'll start feeling a buzzing. And for me, I do feel with the psychic visualization of this golden cord, this microcosmic orbit, I feel the stimulation of the pineal and the pituitary. I can feel them start buzzing. Now, when you're doing the cosmic orbit properly, the mouth actually produces a sweet saliva. It's very interesting. And it is a physiological effect that is unmistakable that takes place. And these are kind of the little communications to your body that you're doing these practices properly, that you are incorporating the unification of your cells and your tissue to work in unison to produce a mechanical physiological effect for super regenerative processes throughout the body. So on that note, I'm going to end the show with that. Like I said, trying to do shorter YouTube live broadcasts, and then doing the more elongated show on People for People Radio. And then if I have guests, editing that footage later, the full interview, putting graphics to it. And I'm very excited. I've been working really hard on this, and it would already be done, but for the first time in my life, I have so much service I'm doing to 4 children, and an amazing partner who is rocking it with her program. The Rose Lineage, and the Magdalene of the Rose program she does for women's health and healing. She's about to do a program that has been months in prep and planning, so I've been in full support for that. So my windows are very small to be able to edit and just get into the zone. So I'm actually going to work on that a little bit now after ending the show early, because I have a small window where nobody's here right now that's usually cleared for the radio show this week. And I look forward to releasing those pieces to you all and hearing your positive feedback. Again, we are in the crux of the pressure build towards a really powerful peak, and there are events coming that will be very shocking to all of us. And my number one intention and communication to you is trust in this higher invisible hand. Stay in your hearts and trust in the moment. And there is such a beautiful awakening on the other side of it. But so many of us are asleep still. So many of our fellow human beings are asleep or deeply indoctrinated into deep psychopathy levels of fear that have been, like I said before, generationally put in place. And that generational, you know, implementation, infection that's gone into the consciousness, it threatens the very reality with which they exist in, which is more scary than looking at what's actually on the way of the true freedom they've never known. So, in that regard, it is a powerful time. Be gentle with yourselves and each other, and pay attention. Utilize these practices. Utilize all of the knowledge and wisdom that you have access to. And check out, there's tons of videos on Matrix Biomechanics Live for you to explore different types of breath techniques. And I'm working on putting some more sets together for each show, and probably separating them out in the YouTube Live so that you can just watch that portion of the broadcast if that's what aligns for you. I'm really excited also to be doing a cosmic calendar show with Santos Bonacci coming up soon. We'll keep you posted on that as well. So for now, thank you all. Mike Sky, Matrix Biomechanics Live, signing off. Safe journey. Satnam. Sata Nama. Blessings.